Hi, I'm Romi.
And I'm Nicole.
We are two businesswomen, two colleagues, two friends who had an idea and decided to do something with it. Over the past 2 years, we've built the Daily Drip, a media platform and community for the modern South Florida businesswoman.
From Palm Beach to South Beach, we've built an audience of thousands of local business owners, CEOs, founders, executives, and more. And we did it 100% organically.
Whether it's through our blog, weekly newsletter, social media, events, or even this podcast, our mission is to offer a daily drop of inspiration as you pursue your dreams.
People ask us all the time how we did it and why we did it. Join us as we bring you along our journey and the journeys of so many other incredible local businesswomen here on Her Pursuit.
Hi, so I'm Romi, co-founder of the Daily Drip, and welcome to Her Pursuit podcast. Today, I'm joined by Stacey Kovalsky, VP of PR and Communication for USPA Global. We have Melia Arnett-Archie, founder and owner of the VoiceBot Creators Podcast Studio, which is where the Daily Drip host does all of our podcasts, and Balaun, who is the brand director of Balaun. And actually, I'm really excited because the people joining me today, the three of you, actually all have very unique perspectives on style and brand. And really, that's what we're going to talk about is how finding your personal style and how that fits into work, everyday life, how you show up. So my first question, and I'll start with Stacey and we'll kind of work around, is what role does clothing and your own personal style play in your life? Like what makes you feel more confident? What makes you feel like good in your own skin, really?
Yeah, I mean, this may go a little bit opposite to what some people are feeling now, but I feel good when I put myself together and everything matches and I've got my accessories and everything's kind of pulled together. It gives me more confidence. I feel like earlier in my career when I was younger, I always felt like I needed to, dress the part to get business or to make people feel confident with me. And that's kind of stayed through my career now. I mean, now I'm 51 and I can kind of do what I want, but I'm also representing a company that is a clothing brand and a sports brand. And I'm out at polo games on Sundays and, you kind of have to look the part, but I don't feel like it's put on me. I feel like I embrace it. It gives me more confidence. We were talking, in our pre-chat about heels and sneakers and all that. And I've definitely gone a little bit down the sneaker path. My husband is like, if another pair of sneakers arrives here, I'm gonna put it out, back out and return to sender. But so I've embraced the Romi style, but I love it. But I feel like heels give me more stature, more better posture, and they just give me more confidence. And that's kind of where I am.
And I think that's really what I think will come out of this conversation is it's about, even though I tend to be more on the casual side, I'd like to think that it's still put together. I don't look like sloppy and messy. It's just that, to your point, heels make you feel confident. I feel less confident. I feel like I'm kind of almost like a character rather than myself. And it's interesting because my mom actually was always the overdressed person. Like she was always dressed, like everything matching, all the things. My sister and I tend to lean the other direction,
And maybe that there's a reason,
But even though she worked from home, even when she started working from home in the office, in the basement of our house, she still dressed as if she was going out to meet with people in an office. Like she would still wear work clothing. And me, when I work from home, I'll spend the whole day in my gym clothes. Like I'm super happy to do it. So you have, Melia, some interesting, you have your own style. You've kind of become known a little bit for the glasses. Well, amongst us anyway. So
I don't have my glasses on today, but if you see my socials, you two are repping for me. But normally I would have my oversized glasses on, and not just for fashion because I really need to see. But outside of that, I think over the years, I've grown more comfortable with my personal style as it relates to my personal brand. It hasn't always been that way. I started my career as a prosecutor, and a room full of dark suits, and we were just talking about pantyhose and all of the things, and I did that well too, but it wasn't me, right? To your point, I was playing the persona of what was required in that moment. But when I left the more structured environment where those things were required, I really started to experiment with different textures and colors and hairstyles and glasses, and really started, because I am, just by nature, I'm a bright person. And I recognized how different I felt when I was showing up like me, in the colors that I wanted to wear, in the style that I felt most comfortable in, even in my nails, even as an attorney, as owner of VoiceBox. It's like I'm defining every day who I am and how I want to show up in the world, and not being constricted by sort of social norms that might follow my field.
Well, and I think there is something that's, and maybe next time a younger person, and I say younger, we're all of a certain vintage, but I mean, maybe someone in the early stages. Yeah. I think a lot of this conversation will also sort of come from people that we've been out there a long time. We've sort of earned like the confidence in terms of what we know in what we do, that we don't have to, we can be more authentic to that. Like, we've been around long enough. Does that make sense? Like, I don't know if I'm articulating well, but just, like with age comes experience, and you start to get more and more confident and realize, like, I can show up as me because I know that I have what I need to back it up. Like, I don't have to present on the outside because I got the inside to back it up. Right. So, Michelle, you have an interesting story. So
here comes the old lady. Are you ready for your history lessons, darlings? So most of my life was spent in a uniform. I went to a Catholic school. I had a uniform for 8 years. So I never got a lot of choices. You had a Sunday dress, and then I had cutoffs and t-shirts. So I didn't really have clothes. And I mean, we can go far back when we were talking about pantyhose. The thought came into my head, like, my grandparents lived here in Fort Lauderdale. I remember coming to Fort Lauderdale in my first pair of pantyhose. Y'all don't even know about garter belts and stockings for little girls. You had those little stuff, and you would have the garters put into your legs. Yeah, so I remember being on the plane and then pulling them up, and of course putting my fingers right through them, and I was crushed that now I have runners in my stockings. But uniforms were always super important. And then from heels, I used heels as a tool, manipulation tool. I'm 5'8". I am tall, I admit. But in the 80s, when I worked with a lot of men who were 6-something, I wore the tallest heels that I could find. I was 6'1", 6'2", sometimes 6'3" in my shoes, because I was eye to eye with them. There was like, you're not messing with me. And it was really, I used it as an actual tool because I had no other voice at the time, right? Because you're a woman.
That's like a really interesting thing to sort of think about. I've never really thought of fashion or even shoes in that way. And that is like, that's really interesting. That's
what I was saying, that it gives me stature.
Yeah.
You're
5'8",
saying,
you put 4-inch heels on, you're there.
Yeah, it just gives me more stature and more presence. And I guess subliminally, I was probably doing something to have more presence with men.
I mean, that's something that we learned, because just in advertising, subliminal advertising in the 70s, if you recognize that term at all, we had to do things in a not obvious way to gain some power in the room. Using your voice, for instance, like Melia said, like making sure you were early to the meeting, but not too early that you were getting the people the coffee, right? It was just like you had to manipulate your way around to keep yourself in some sort of position of power of your own. And then I went from that into all the fashion stuff, and then boom, I was at a couture house that you had to wear their clothes. So it was like a uniform. And even though everyone would be like, I'm dying to wear that, and I'd be like, I hate wearing it, because it was just, I had to, right? And I didn't feel I had the creativity with my color and this and that. Not to mention I was in Europe at the time, and if you opened my closet, everything was black. Like, I had to purposely say when I came to Florida, you're not allowed to wear black anymore. Guess what I'm wearing today? I don't use that rule anymore, but literally you could open my closet and there was like one little green thing in the corner or something, but it was just all black. So I had to like learn to use color again, even coming out of the European continent, which if you're wearing too many colors, they know that you're an American.
It's interesting how I think, like, when I look at, overall, I admire people that wear certain things that I may not wear, but the level of confidence that they present when they walk in, owning their overall, like, what they've put together, I always admire that. I think that's what stands out more than the actual clothing. I think it's how you wear what you're showing up in.
Well, I have a power color, and this is something that I've picked up since I've been doing trial work. You see me with red lipstick on. It's an important day, right? Like, I have something to do. To Stacey's point, it's a self-confidence that comes with my power color. And I have a few power outfits, you know what I mean? It's like, when I put this on, I am my best self, right? Like, I know, like, I'm my strongest, like, I feel the most put together, and I'm ready to go and conquer something. I think we all have that somewhere. Even if it's in a pair of Golden Goose sneakers, you know what I mean? You have it, you know what I mean? It's like, but what is it for you, and how do you connect with that? And to your point, with the younger folks who are coming up, I think, really starting to identify that along the way. It's like, where is it that when I am fitted in this way, I feel like I can show up my most authentic, my most powerful, and my best self to produce or to perform in whatever arena that I'm standing in.
I think it's so hard for them too, because they lack the confidence. Like, because you said we're sort of a vintage here. We've gone through so much that we have our own confidence. But when you're much, much younger and you're still trying to figure out how to gain that, your clothing and things are going to give you confidence. And it's hard for them not to fall into the trap of like following one of the influencers, but I see now that there's much more inclusiveness in body shapes and clothing choices and like all the hair comments and stuff now. Like, what does it matter? Like, if a woman is allowed to have long hair, why can't a man? Right? Or it's just like, why do we care so much about what the hair is doing?
I think, like I said, I think it really just comes down to like looking put together, right? Like, I think like whatever that looks like. So like, even if your hair is pink, but like you've put yourself together and you don't look like you've rolled out of bed and like don't care. Like, I think there's a difference between, having your style and being casual, or whether it's, overdressing, whatever the case may be, and like looking like no effort went into it. Yeah. Like that's like a big thing. So my next question is sort of, what has influenced your style? Specifically, like, what is your favorite style element? I'll start with you. Yeah, I'll start with, we'll go
What's
around
my
again.
favorite style element? I mean, I guess more lately, just because I'm on this like sort of equestrian path, I've been wearing, more sort of like my little horseshoe, and which is not showing, and just kind of symbolic things. I wear a lot of jewelry that's been passed down through my family, and that means a lot to me. So I kind of mix it up with modern elements and things that I've gotten from my mother and grandmother. And I have a little doggy paw anklet bracelet in memory of my dog that passed away, that led me to my two rescues now. So when we walk, all three of us, four of us are walking together. So a lot of kind of symbolism. I don't, always wear, cool sneaks or, awesome glasses or those types of things. But I do try to have sort of like symbolic things that mean something to me, and that also gives me a little bit more confidence as well.
What about you?
I have a few things. One, my glasses when I have them, they have become a very important part of my style. And actually TikTok, told me I literally was wearing glasses because I needed to see. I picked the glasses that I like to wear. They happened to be oversized sunglasses that I had converted to my prescription, just because I believe in sort of pressing the limits. Like, I don't take fashion at face value. It's like, I don't like any of these glasses I see, so I'm gonna just convert these sunglasses that I like. Why not? Right? Like, who can tell me no? And then it was TikTok that, really connected with the glasses. And they're like, oh my gosh, like, these are so cool. Like, I've never seen such oversized, like, glasses. And I'm like, it's a thing. And so we just sort of kept it up. And then for me, my hair. I'm a Black woman, obviously. And, that's one of the things that I love culturally to bring to the forefront is all of the different ways that, we can express ourselves with our hair. So, today I'm wearing braids. I normally wear a short pixie. And so I actually had a dripper, a fellow thought leader, that said to me when I first wore the long braids from the short pixie, are you afraid that your customers are not going to recognize you? And I said, just the opposite. This is a part of my brand, is that that they can always rely on, is that I'm always going to be cool and creative, and I'm going to try new things because I work with creative entrepreneurs, right? And I need to demonstrate that level of authenticity in how I'm presenting as well. So just the opposite. I think my clients and my customers are looking for what I'm going to do next and how I'm going to have fun with my hair, my glasses, colors, and things like that. And so I think for me, my hair, my glasses, and a little pop of color every now and then.
I love that because it actually answers the question of, just in terms of your brand. Like, you work with creatives. You are a creative person. So your style is a total reflection of that. It breathes out like color and creativity. Like, I love that. That it literally, to your point, shows how authentic you do show up. And is there anyone in particular that influences your style?
Yeah, I take a lot of my cues. Well, I have a few magazines that I partake in regularly. Elle, Vogue, and I'm always looking at sort of, what's trending. And, I love couture because it's so undefined. You know what I mean? And, that's the space that I love to live in. It's like, oh, this shirt with this skirt, that's interesting. Like, I want to be interesting. I want to feel interesting. I want to feel like my clothes are giving me inspiration even as I'm working. And so I take hints from fashion magazines, and to your point, even influencers, because I think as we are, and girl, don't call me vintage. We are seasoned. However you want, we're splitting hairs. However you want to call it, because we are of a more mature age. I do think it's important for me, as working with creators, to be able to look back and see, what's happening, what's happening in fashion, how are textures being used, not only to be relevant, but because, as a creator, it's important for me to stay in touch with that side of what's going on in my space. So creators are very, very inspiring to me.
Michelle, knowing that you went from uniform to sort of work uniform, do you find that now you've kind of pushed the envelope in the other direction? Now as a brand director, nobody gets to tell you what to wear and how to wear it?
Nobody gets to tell me. The secret, where you were saying, what's the style thing that you have? I have a secret thing because I worked for a very expensive brand. Everyone thinks that everything I own is some brand thing. Like, these are $20 peepers. Like, everything I have, I can wear really cheap stuff and people think it's something fantastic because I am wearing it with something that's expensive. It comes down to a bottle of water. Okay, the bottle of water at the grocery store is $2. The bottle of water at Starbucks is $4.50. The one in the airport is $7.50. The one it's the same thing. It just has a different brand wrapped around it or a location. So these glasses could sell for $10, $200, $2,000. It's just what kind of value you put on it. And you brought up a very interesting point about fashion. Where does fashion come from, or where does couture come from? And how it used to be, fast fashion has eroded the entire retail market. Like, retailers are crying. Everything is made in China. Everything, from everybody. Gucci, it doesn't matter. Versace, it doesn't matter. So back in the day, when you had actual craftsmen making these goods with products from the silks from Italy and, like things that were made in those places, now everybody's stuff's made in the same factory. It makes no difference now. There is no real couture. It's so hard to, I don't think we're in the level of being able to afford real couture, right? That's Beyonce level. That's where you see the real couture and stuff. Then as it flows downhill to us into the fast fashion lanes, all the way down to Target and H&M and those things. But it all has origins when you first saw it in Vogue and those things. So
Like spin-offs.
the scene in Devil Wears Prada when she's like, oh, that blue that you're wearing, that is from, and she gives the example of how that blue in her sweater carried down into.
Well, it's funny you bring that movie up, actually, because I was thinking about it, and what's interesting is when she calls her out, and I can't believe I'm even referencing this, but that's like a whole separate thing. But when she calls her out for kind of saying, like, acting like she doesn't care about what she wears, and she says, though, you care, don't care. There was a process that went into what you wore today, and it makes a statement.
That blue.
So
it's the blue sweater,
and she showed up wearing, like, she actually didn't look so put together. But the point is that it's a statement, whatever it is, whether it's something.
Well, remember the
organized and
grunge
fancy.
season that we
I
had.
dig a grunge.
You did have grunge. Did you wear grunge? So you had punk. I can go back further. Punk. People with the safety pins in their ears and things like that. Like, so there's always a logistic. There's a radical side and there's a conservative side, right? And then there's the middle. Banana Republic, right? It's like kind of a thing. So it's fascinating. I find fashion really fascinating. When I was a kid, I got L'Officiel. It was like The Official. It's a French fashion magazine, but I got it as a kid, like when I was 16, 17. They were tremendously expensive and they were all in French, but I don't care, And that fashion, like why did I ever get rid of, I know the day I got rid of all of them, I'm so bummed. But those magazines and that fashion and that stuff, that is so interesting. Like, if you're really interested about fashion, like, watch all the movies. Watch Devil Wears Prada. Watch the Chanel. There's a new Chanel movie coming out I haven't seen yet.
There's a show, too, about Chanel, about Coco Chanel.
Yeah, exactly. But like any of those movies, it's super interesting because she was so radical. Like, pants, a chemise. Like, these ladies had bustles and hair and hats and this and that. And she came out, like, wearing nothing, right?
So can I add to what Michelle was saying about mixing and matching? And I was sort of remiss when you asked about, your style and like what's emblematic for you. That is actually something that I do regularly. Just yesterday, and it was, or the day before yesterday, and it was commented on by a coworker. I had worn a pair of Old Navy linen pants, a U.S. Polo ASSN branded striped top with our double horseman, and I had Hermes shoes, Hermes bag, and some jewelry and so forth. And it was my coworker was talking about how she had just found these linen pants, and they're amazing and they're so comfortable. And she said, "Oh, I'm sure you wouldn't wear those." And she said, I got them from Old Navy. And I was like, the ones I wore the other day that you complimented me on, those were Old Navy. So I love to kind of mix it up. And I feel like if you're put together and you put thought into what you're wearing, I mean, my budget has gone up significantly from when I was younger. So now I am, buying, Gucci and Saint Laurent and Ferragamo, et cetera. And I'm mixing that because obviously I'm not, dressing head to toe in Chanel, right? So I use my accents of my designer pieces and I wear them with, Banana Republic or, that kind of thing. And if it's all put together, it looks fantastic. And people, I don't care what people think I pay for anything. I don't care about that. I love the style from the magazines and I'm so inspired by that. So if I can mix that with something that's, less expensive, more affordable, more, offices have gotten much more casual now. So our office is more casual. So, sometimes I'm wearing a pair of jeans and a Veronica Beard blazer and sneakers now, Romi. So, just mixing it up and having fun with it and not being so rigid and, this all has to be designer, this all has to be a certain way and being more open to blending things and blending styles.
And I think it really comes down to how it makes you feel so that you can show up a certain way. And, when you commented on like jewelry, for instance, so I am not a huge jewelry person, but the pieces that I wear are all sentimental. Like they mean something to me. Like my wedding band is broken, but it's the band that my parents got married in. It's the band my mom wore under the chuppah. The other ring that I wear was a gift my father gave to my grandmother that has a stone for each grandchild. This necklace has a stone, like each crystal is something that I connect with because of my birthday. And so I have shirts that I kept of my dad's that I wear because of how it makes me feel. He passed 25 years ago, and when I wear one of his shirts, I feel like I'm getting a hug, So to me, like when it comes to like things that I'm wearing, it's also like that, how it makes you feel on the inside, right? Like there's some kind of, I don't know, there's some kind of warm and fuzzies, but also that makes you just feel, I guess for me, sometimes like even protected, if that's it. Like I feel but I guess I don't think of power, but yeah, it's a power to it.
But power isn't always
like forceful lightning bolt.
Right. It's that quiet confidence sometimes, that hug, the joy that, just putting on something on makes you feel. That's a power.
I have this one pink shirt of my dad's. It's like Panama Jack. And if I tell you, like, there's no fabric left. Like the armpits have no fabric. The sleeves are hanging off. And it's actually the only article of clothing that I own that my kids know they are not allowed to wear. Like my daughter can ransack and take all of it, but it's the one thing because it's literally hanging by a thread.
You can take pieces of it and put it into something else that's going to last even longer.
That has to say it is, but it's funny because I made a quilt for my son when he was born of shirts of my dad's, so that it was like another hug. Melia, you wrote a piece for us not too long ago for the blog about capsule wardrobes. Personally, I thought it was awesome because I actually, in terms of my style too, or how I shop, I tend to buy things that are classic because I have clothes that I've been wearing for 10 years because I'll buy little things here and there to be on trend. Yeah. But this way, like a black cashmere sweater lasts forever. Like this will still be in style in 15 years. So when you thought of your capsule wardrobe, first of all, like how did you come up with that or what inspired it? And then do you subscribe to it? Like how do you use it in your world?
So in one of my mags, had read an article on a 37-piece capsule. And it was basically given basic instructions on creating your core wardrobe, right? Like monochromatic in color, different textures so that everything matches. You can pick a shirt with any skirt or pants and it's going to go together. And these are sort of the core of your wardrobe. So I started to think about where I was, which was in the launch of my new business and how clouded I had felt just with all of the decisions I had to make. And I thought this is a good opportunity for me to pare down and to create a capsule that takes one of the biggest decisions I have to make every day off the table, which is what will I wear? Yeah. And so I did that. And let me just say, I had T-shirts from high school that I'd literally been carrying from high school to college to law school to first job to, mom, marriage mom. And as I'm going through, the purging process, it was really emotional. I really had to ask, and it was literally a conversation with several pieces. Like, I love you. You've served me well.
Your time has come.
But your time has come. I must let you go.
And someone else can enjoy.
No, babes. No. The things from high school, you have to go to the clothes graveyard, right? Like you have to go. But it was really, really emotional. Letting a lot of the things go, not only because of what the items were, but because you're fighting against this security that all of your stuff brings you. And so as I was paring down, what I realized was, oh, I'm really stepping out into something new. I don't know how I'm going to feel when this is over. I'm going to be limited to these 37 pieces because that's what I chose, a 37 piece. And I chose all black, not because I have an affinity to black, but because it was just the simplest. I figured with all of the decisions I had to make and letting things go, the last thing I wanted to do is be like trying to find 37 pink monochromatic pieces, right? So we're just going to go with black. Like that's the easiest. But it was very emotional. But, at the end of it, what I found was a sense of, I felt centered. And I did it for 3 months consecutively. And I literally had just those 37 pieces. And I would go to the closet and it was so easy for me to pick, what I was going to wear. And it took all of that stress and all of that anxiety I realized I would spend 30, 40 minutes sometimes in the evening or in the mornings deciding what I was going to wear. And I did keep a few accents, like my shoes, right? My jewelry, some things to judge it up, to make sure that I didn't just get weighted down in the 37 black pieces, because halfway through I'm like, you should have chosen another color, because at this point you're looking and feeling a little heavy. But it worked great for where I was, and that's what I wrote the article about, and that's what the article was about, which was really sort of doing the work, whether you land on a 37 piece wardrobe or not. Maybe asking yourself the hard questions about why you still have some of the things that you have in your closet. What are you holding onto them for? Are they still serving you? Or is it time to do a little shedding, a little purging to get to a place of clarity?
So what I think is really interesting, and why I'm glad that you positioned it that way, is that it speaks to the fact that it runs a lot deeper than clothing and our appearance and all of that. I mean, we live in a world of overproduction and filters and all these things, and we're being advertised to 24/7. But I think that what has been really important and meaningful about this conversation is we're talking about something that on the surface could be, looked at as like superficial or whatever, but it runs really deep. It really does. There's something behind it. And as you talk about, I mean, I have things in my closet. And I just won't. Like, they look like something you would wipe the floors with, and they'll just live in my closet in a corner forever and always.
If that gives you comfort, then
it does to some degree. I think part of it sometimes too is like it represents a period of time that maybe you're not ready to totally let go of.
I feel the same way. Yeah. I have that too.
I do understand though, and the more I read about, especially in a lot of these like personal, professional development things, is like, how can you welcome new if you don't get rid of old? So like, I'm working through that.
Just get a bigger closet. That's all.
And actually, I heard Oprah say years ago that if you take a look in your closet and there's something that you haven't touched in 6 months, like it's time to have a conversation about.
Yeah, the trick where you take so I did it this year, beginning of the year, turned all the hangers around. All of them are facing the wrong way. So every time you wear something, you put it back the right way. And then you'll see at the end of the year which things have not been turned around. And so that was my commitment this year, to try that, right? But I have like, because I have such respect for fashion and stuff, I have vintage pieces. Like, I have a dress from my mother from the 60s, which is like Breakfast at Tiffany's. It's like the little black thing with the crystal pleats, and I used to wear it. It's been a long time. The other thing that you have in your closet is I have different size clothes, because there's the pre-COVID, then there's the COVID, then there's the still after COVID, that, like, how do you adjust for all those things? And you're like, well, I spent a lot of money on that. I am not getting rid of that till I get back into it, right? Kind of a thing. And like, how do you let go of that stuff? But for style, like, I think if you're not sure, testing out a stylist. We have so many women that are stylists in our, I don't know if in our group, in the networking group, the other one I'm in, there's several. And there's such an interesting thing when someone else comes, because they have a different view of you. So when I go shopping with a girl, if I have a friend that's like, oh, will you go shopping with me? And I'm like, sure. So I'm a salesperson. I get them in the dressing room. You just stay there. And I just bring them stuff that they would never in a million years pick. And then I'm like, here's the belt, here's this, here's that. And at the end, they're like, I hate you. I just now have to get a credit card out because I'm buying everything that stuff I would never have picked. And it's because they love how they look and how it makes them feel, which is the most important thing. So getting somebody else's view of you in the clothes is really helpful. So if you're stuck, like, I don't know, did anyone help you with the 27 or the 37 pieces?
No, they didn't. Because it was about simplification. And I think, we all have to realize that we have a finite amount of energy, space, time, budget. And so, I think whatever you have to do personally to get to a place of clarity about what is working for you, which is really what it was about. It's not that, there aren't, pieces like, your maybe your mother's wedding dress. You never get rid of that, but you're also not wearing that every day, right? Like, you're not standing in front of your closet like, am I going to wear the wedding dress today? No, like that, that's almost like an heirloom, right? But in terms of, the things that you are touching and making decisions about in, a 24-hour span, I think that we have to be respectful of where we're spending our energy.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, honestly, because you think about it, like, we have so many things going on in the day. Like, do any of us really have 30 minutes to spend just sitting there trying to figure out what to wear that day?
Well, and you end up wearing the same things over and over again. Like, I could take all that stuff out of my closet and put it in the other closet, which is already stuffed with all the St. John, right? Because I can't throw it. I've gotten rid of so much of it, but some of it is still there. So it's like, I keep moving it. Like, I'm not looking at it anymore. So it doesn't really exist, right? It's still in the house. I can't commit to getting rid of it. It's just
what if I said your closet is a representative of what your spirit looks like?
Yeah, that's hard. That's harsh. That's very harsh.
Hot mess express then. Well, no, it's somewhat organized actually, because I go through it actually.
Well, mine's very colorful, so
fairly.
That's the way to think about it, at least for me, which is why I came to that decision point, because I realized all of the clutter and all of the indecision that was in my closet was in here. And I needed to tidy up.
I love that, and we're gonna close on that, because I think really at the end of the day, like, what we really kind of uncovered is that how we dress, what our closets look like, all of this goes a lot deeper than just how we're showing up. It really is a reflection of what's going on inside, showing up in a way that we feel confident when we do walk out the door. And I'm really grateful for you guys sharing all your insights. So for everyone who is listening, thank you. This was part 1 of a 2-part series. So we talked today about finding your personal style. Part 2, which you'll have to tune into, is using your personal style as a tool. So listen in for that next episode, and to our next episode of Her Pursuit. Thanks for listening to this episode of Her Pursuit. You can catch a new episode every other Wednesday. Please don't forget to subscribe or follow so that you don't miss out on any of the good stuff.
We love bringing you free content and value to help inspire and motivate you. So if you enjoyed this episode, throw us a thumbs up, leave us a rating, a review, and send this to a friend who you think would enjoy it. Your support is so important to us, and we wouldn't be able to do any of this without you. So thanks for listening. Talk to you in 2 weeks.